Tay wiped sweat from his forehead as he walked through the long metal hallway of Orbital Station Dahan. His heart beat fast in his chest. The message from his sister had been short and scary. Need help. Come to Sector 7. Danger. Don't tell anyone. Tay was just a ship engineer. He fixed engines on cargo ships that moved between Earth and Mars. He wasn't brave or special, but Ju-Wan was his only family, and she had never asked for help before. The hallway ended at a large metal door with red warning lights. A sign read, Sector 7, authorized personnel only. Next to the door stood a woman in a black uniform. Her face was serious, and her hand rested on the weapon at her hip. Tay took a deep breath and walked forward. The woman's eyes locked onto him immediately. Stop right there, she said. Her voice was cold and clear. The name tag on her uniform said Jin, just that one word, no rank or number. I need to enter Sector 7, Tay said, trying to sound confident. The enforcer frowned. You're not authorized for this zone. She looked him up and down. Let me see your ID. Tay handed over his station pass. It was basic level, good for public areas and the ship docks, nothing more. Jin scanned it with her wrist device. Tay Park, Engineering Specialist, Commercial Transport Division. She handed the pass back. As I said, you're not authorized for this zone. Level 4 clearance required. Please, Tay said, lowering his voice. My sister works here. She sent me a message. She might be in trouble. Your sister? Jin's eyes narrowed. Name? Ju-Wan Park, she's a scientist. Studies plants from other worlds. Something changed in Jin's face. It was small, just a quick widening of her eyes. But Tay caught it. There's no one by that name in Sector 7, Jin said loudly. Her eyes moved to the security camera in the corner of the hallway. Tay's shoulders dropped. I must have misunderstood. I'm sorry to bother you. He turned to leave, but Jin's voice stopped him. Wait. When he turned back, Jin was still frowning, but something was different in her eyes. She glanced at the camera again, then reached into her pocket. You dropped this, she said, even though Tay had dropped nothing. She tossed something toward him. Tay caught it by reflex. It was a keycard, sleek and silver with a blue stripe. In the corner was a small number. 5. Tay stared at it in shock. Level 5 clearance? That was higher than what Jin had said was needed for this sector. I don't know what you're talking about, Jin said in a loud, clear voice. Now leave this area immediately. But her eyes told a different story. They held his gaze for a moment longer than necessary. Tay slipped the keycard into his pocket. Yes, sorry, I'll go. As he turned to walk away, Jin spoke again so quietly he almost missed it. Eastern Corridor. 10 minutes. Tay walked away, his mind racing. Why would an enforcer give him a high-level keycard? Was it a trap? But if Jin wanted to arrest him, she could have done it already. He found a quiet spot near a water recycling station and checked the time. 9 minutes until he was supposed to meet Jin. He thought about running back to his ship and leaving the station. That would be the safe choice, but the fear in Ju-Wan's message kept him from leaving. His sister was brilliant and brave. If she was scared, the danger must be real. 8 minutes later, Tay walked into the Eastern Corridor. It was empty and dimly lit. The station was switching to night cycle and most workers were heading to the food hall or their sleeping quarters. You came. Good. Tay jumped. Jin had appeared behind him without making a sound. She had changed out of her uniform into plain gray clothes, but she still looked like someone not to mess with. Why did you help me? Tay asked. Jin looked up and down the corridor before answering. I know your sister. You do? Is she okay? Where is she? Lower your voice, Jin said sharply. Walk with me. Act normal. They walked side by side through the corridor. Jin led them through a door that required her thumbprint, then down a narrow service hallway. Your sister is alive, Jin said finally, but she's in danger. We both are now. I don't understand. Ju-Wan studies plants. She's not important. Jin gave him a look that made him feel stupid. Your sister discovered something. Something big. Something that powerful people want to keep secret. What did she find? Jin stopped walking and faced him. I can't tell you here, but I can take you to her. She's on the station? Right now? Jin nodded. Hidden. We need to move her tonight. That's why she called you. Move her where? Off station. Your ship leaves tomorrow, right? The cargo transport to Mars colony? Tay nodded slowly. Yes, but passengers need special permits. Jin held up the keycard she had given him. That's what this is for. It can create the permits we need, but we have to be careful. The station security system records every use of these cards. A loud announcement echoed through the hallway. Attention all personnel. Security sweep in progress. Please have identification ready. Jin cursed under her breath. They're looking for her. We need to move faster. She led Tay through a maze of service tunnels and maintenance shafts. They climbed down ladders and squeezed through narrow spaces meant for repair robots. Tay lost track of where they were in the station. Finally, they reached a small door hidden behind some pipes. Jin tapped a code into a hidden panel and the door slid open. The room inside was tiny, barely bigger than a closet. It had been a storage space for cleaning supplies, now emptied except for a small cot, a water container, and some food packets. On the cot sat a woman with short black hair and tired eyes. Ju-won. Tay rushed forward. His sister looked up, her face lighting up with relief. Tay, you actually came. She stood and hugged him tightly. Of course I came, Tay said. What's happening? Why are you hiding? Ju-won pulled back and looked at Jin. Did you tell him? Jin shook her head. Not everything. Not here. Ju-won turned back to Tay. I found something on Proxima Centauri B in the moss samples we were studying. Her voice was shaking slightly. It changes everything we know about humans, about where we came from. I don't understand, Tay said. Ju-won reached under the cot and pulled out a small, clear crystal. All the data is here. All the proof. But they want to destroy it. And me with it. Who wants to destroy it? The government. The military. Anyone with power, Jin said from the doorway where she was keeping watch. Tomorrow they're going to announce that there was an accident in the research lab. That your sister and her team died. Tay felt cold all over. But that's not true. The others are already dead, Ju-won said quietly. I'm the only one left. Jin turned from the door. We have 20 minutes before the next security sweep reaches this section. We need to get to your ship, Tay. It's our only way off this station. Tay looked at his sister's tired face, then at the enforcer who had risked everything to help her. He thought about his simple life fixing engines, a life that was about to disappear. Okay, he said. Let's go. Jin checked the small hallway outside the storage room. Clear, she whispered. We move now. Stay close, Tay helped his sister stand. Ju-won was weaker than she looked. Her hand felt thin and cold in his. When did you last eat? He asked. I don't remember, Ju-won said. 2 days, maybe? Jin handed her a small food bar from her pocket. Eat this. You need strength. The three moved into the hallway. Jin led the way with Tay supporting Ju-won in the middle. The station hummed around them, its machines working day and night to keep everyone alive in the emptiness of space. We can't use the main paths, Jin said. Too many cameras, too many people. She opened a panel in the wall that Tay would have walked right past. Behind it was a narrow tunnel with dim blue lights. Maintenance tunnels, Jin explained. They run through the whole station. Only repair workers use them. How do you know about these? Tay asked. It's my job to know everything about this station, Jin said. I'm head of security for Sector 7. Tay stopped walking. You're what? But then why are you helping us? Jin turned to face him. Her eyes were hard but honest. Because your sister is right, and what they plan to do is wrong. They crawled through the tunnel for what felt like hours. The air was hot and stale. Pipes ran along the walls, carrying water and air throughout the station. Sometimes they had to wait as repair robots passed by, their metal bodies barely fitting in the narrow space. Finally, they reached a larger area where they could stand. Jin checked a small map on her wrist device. We're halfway to the ship docks, she said, but the hard part is still ahead. Ju-won sat down, breathing hard. The food bar had given her some energy, but she was still weak. She held the data crystal tightly in her hand. You should tell him, she said to Jin. He deserves to know what he's risking his life for. Jin nodded slowly. You're right. She turned to Tay. Your sister was studying moss from Proxima Centauri B. Simple plants, nothing special. But she found something inside them. Something impossible. Human DNA, Ju-won said. Not exactly like ours, but close. Too close to be a coincidence. Tay shook his head. That's not possible. Humans evolved on Earth. That's what we've always been told, Jin said. But what if it's not true? What if humans existed on other worlds before Earth? Or what if someone put that DNA there? Ju-won added. Someone who came before us. Tay tried to understand what they were saying. It was too big, too strange. But why would anyone want to kill you for finding this? Because it changes everything, Jin said. Our history, our religions, our place in the universe. Some people would rather kill to keep things as they are. A loud alarm suddenly blared through the station. Red lights flashed even in their hidden tunnel. They've started the security lockdown, Jin said, checking her wrist device. They know you're missing, Juwon. What does that mean for us? Tae asked. It means every exit will be guarded. Every ID will be checked. Jin looked grim. And they'll be looking for me too now that I've been gone from my post. We'll never make it to the ship, Juwon said, her voice shaking. Jin thought for a moment. There's another way. But it's dangerous. She led them deeper into the tunnel system. The alarms grew fainter as they moved away from the main station areas. After many turns, they reached a heavy metal door with warning signs. This is the outer maintenance access, Jin explained. It leads to the outside of the station. The outside. Tae felt a chill. You mean space? Im nodded. There are repair paths on the hull. Maintenance workers use them to fix things on the outside of the station. We'll need spacesuits, Juwon said. There should be 3 in the locker. Jin pointed to a metal cabinet on the wall. Standard procedure. Tae opened the cabinet. Inside were 3 spacesuits, oxygen tanks, and repair tools. The suits were old and patched in places, but they looked like they would work. The plan is simple, Jin said as they put on the bulky suits. We walk along the outside of the station to the ship docks. We enter through the emergency airlock. Then we get on your ship before it leaves. Simple, Tae repeated, not feeling simple at all. He had never been outside a station before. The thought made his stomach turn. Juwon put her hand on his arm. We can do this, Tae, we have to. They finished putting on the suits and checked each other's seals. Jin showed them how to use the magnetic boots that would keep them attached to the station's hull. The data crystal, Juwon suddenly said. Where do I put it? The suits don't have pockets, Jin thought for a moment, then took the crystal. She opened a small compartment in her suit's arm and placed it inside. Emergency medical kit. It should be safe here. They put on their helmets and turned on the oxygen. Their voices now came through the suit radios, sounding tinny and far away. Ready? Jin asked. Tae and Juwon nodded. Jin pressed a button on the wall. A red light flashed and a computerized voice spoke. Warning. Outer door will open in 10 seconds. All personnel must be in pressure suits. Tae's heart pounded in his chest. He grabbed his sister's gloved hand. 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1, the door slid open. Beyond it was darkness and stars. Jin went first, her magnetic boots making dull thumping sounds as she stepped onto the hull. Juwon followed, moving slowly and carefully. Tae came last, his breath loud in his helmet. The view was both beautiful and terrifying. Below them, the curved surface of the station stretched out like a metal landscape. Above and around them was the blackness of space, filled with more stars than Tae had ever seen. And beyond that, the blue-green curve of Earth looking peaceful and far away. Stay close to the hull, Jin's voice said in their helmets. Follow the yellow line. It leads to the ship docks. They walked slowly along the station's outer skin. Each step had to be careful. Lift the boot, move forward, press down to activate the magnet. The suits were heavy and hard to move in. Tae kept his eyes on his feet, afraid to look up at the endless space around them. Halfway to the ship docks, Jin stopped suddenly. Get down, she said, flat against the hull. They pressed themselves against the cold metal of the station. A bright light swept over them, a security spotlight from a patrol ship. Don't move, Jin whispered. Their sensors might not pick us up if we stay still. Tae held his breath. The light moved back and forth, searching. After what felt like forever, it moved away. They're looking for ships trying to leave, Jin said. Not people on the hull. Let's keep moving. They continued their slow walk. Tae's oxygen meter showed they had used half their supply. They needed to hurry. Finally, they reached the ship docks. Through his helmet, Tae could see the large hangar where cargo ships waited. His ship, the Star Runner, sat near the outer door, being loaded with supplies for Mars. There's the emergency airlock. Jin pointed to a small door near the main hangar. We can enter there. As they approached the airlock, a new alarm sounded in their helmets. Oxygen warning, the suit computer said. 15 minutes remaining. That's enough time, Jin said. Just barely. She reached for the airlock controls but stopped. Through the clear dome of her helmet, her face looked worried. What's wrong? Juwon asked. Security override, Jin said. They've locked all external airlocks. My codes won't work anymore. Tay felt cold fear wash over him. They were trapped outside with limited oxygen. What do we do now? He asked. Jin looked at the Star Runner, sitting ready for departure. We have one option left, she said. But you're not going to like it. What's the option? Tay asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The oxygen warning light blinked inside his helmet. 14 minutes left, Jin pointed to the Star Runner. We go directly to your ship. Not through the station, but how? The cargo doors are closed, Tay said. Not the cargo doors, the waste disposal hatch. Jin was already moving toward the ship. All transport ships have them. Small hatches to eject trash into space. Tay understood now. And they can be opened from the outside in an emergency. They moved as fast as they could in the heavy suits, magnetic boots clunking against the station's metal skin. Each step had to be careful. One wrong move could send them floating away into the emptiness of space. Oxygen warning. 12 minutes remaining, the suit computer said. They reached the edge of the docking area. The Star Runner sat 50 meters away, held in place by large metal clamps. Between them and the ship was open space, no station hull to walk on. How do we get across? Ju-Wan asked, her voice shaky. Jin pointed to a set of cables that ran from the station to the ship. Maintenance lines. They carry power and data to docked ships. You want us to climb across those? Tay couldn't believe it, not climb. Use these. Jin took 3 small devices from a pouch on her suit. They looked like handles with hooks on the end. Cable riders. Maintenance workers use them to move between ships. She showed them how to attach the riders to the cables. The hook locks on. Then you just hang and slide across. What if we fall? Ju-Wan asked. Don't, Jin said simply. Jin went first. She hooked her rider to the thickest cable, then pushed off from the station. She slid smoothly across the gap, hanging from the cable with her feet dangling in empty space. When she reached the ship, she grabbed a handrail and pulled herself onto its hull. See? Easy, her voice said in their helmets. Ju-Wan went next. She moved more slowly, clearly terrified. Halfway across, she froze. I can't do this, she whispered. I can't move. Yes, you can, Tay said. Look at the ship, not down. Jin is waiting for you. Ju-Wan took a deep breath and continued sliding. When she reached the ship, Jin helped her onto the hull. Now it was Tai's turn. He hooked his rider to the cable and pushed off. The feeling was strange, like flying and falling at the same time. Below him was nothing but the blackness of space. He kept his eyes on the ship ahead. Oxygen warning. 9 minutes remaining, the suit computer said. Tay reached the Star Runner and grabbed the handrail. Jin pulled him onto the hull. Good job, she said. Now for the hard part. They moved across the ship's surface, following Jin to the back. The Star Runner was much smaller than the station, but walking on it felt more dangerous. One wrong step and they would float away into space. There, Jin pointed to a small round hatch. Waste disposal. Tay knelt by the hatch. It had a simple emergency release, a red handle designed to be used by someone in a spacesuit. He pulled it and the hatch swung open. Inside was a narrow tube just big enough for a person to fit through. I'll go first, Jin said. Then Ju-Wan. Tay comes last. Jin climbed feet first into the tube. She disappeared inside, her voice coming through the radio. It's clear. Come on. Ju-Wan went next, moving carefully in her bulky suit. Then it was Tay's turn. He took one last look at the stars, then lowered himself into the ship. The tube was tight and dark. Tay had to wiggle to move through it. After a few meters, it opened into a small room, the waste collection area. Jin and Ju-Wan were already there working on the inner door. Oxygen warning. 6 minutes remaining, the suit computer said. The inner door is locked, Jin said, frustration in her voice. It needs a code. I know the code, Tay said. I'm the engineer, remember? He moved to the control panel and typed in a 6-digit number. The door slid open. They stepped into a narrow hallway. Jin closed the door behind them and pressed a button on the wall. Air hissed into the small space. Pressurizing complete, a computerized voice announced. It is now safe to remove helmets. They took off their helmets, breathing deeply. The ship's air felt cool and fresh after the recycled oxygen in their suits. We made it, Ju-Wan said, her voice filled with relief. Not yet, Jin warned. We still need to hide until the ship leaves. If anyone finds us, they'll alert station security. Tay led them through the narrow corridors of the Star Runner. The ship was designed to carry cargo, not people. It had a small crew area with just 4 sleeping pods, a tiny kitchen, and a control room. The cargo hold is our best bet. Tay said. It's big and full of containers. Easy to hide in. They made their way to the cargo hold, still wearing their spacesuits minus the helmets. The large room was stacked with metal containers all secured for the journey to Mars. The ship leaves in 30 minutes, Tay said, checking a schedule on the wall. We need to stay hidden until we're away from the station. Jin nodded. Let's get out of these suits. They're too bulky. They removed the spacesuits and hid them behind some containers. Jin carefully took the data crystal from her suit's arm compartment and gave it back to Juwon. Keep this safe, she said. It's worth more than our lives. Juwon nodded and slipped the crystal into her pocket. Suddenly, they heard voices and footsteps. Someone was coming into the cargo hold. Hide, Jin whispered. They ducked behind a large container. Tay's heart pounded in his chest. 2 crew members walked into the hold checking the cargo straps. Final check complete, one said. All secure for departure. Good, the other replied. Captain wants to leave early. Station's on some kind of security alert. Yeah, I heard. Something about escaped prisoners. The crew members finished their checks and left the hold. Tay let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. They're looking for us, Juwon whispered. The whole station must be searching. It doesn't matter, Jin said. Once we're away from the station, they can't stop us. They felt the ship rumble as its engines started up. A voice came over the ship's speakers. Attention, crew. Preparing for departure. Secure all loose items. The rumbling grew stronger. Through a small window in the cargo hold, they could see the station's docking clamps release. The Star Runner was moving, slowly pulling away from orbital station Daehan. We did it, Juwon said, smiling for the first time since Tay had found her. But Jin didn't smile. This is just the beginning, she said. Getting off the station was the easy part. What do you mean? Tay asked. The station will alert Mars Colony that we're on board, Jin explained. They'll be waiting for us when we arrive. Tay hadn't thought of that. So what do? We need to talk to the captain, Jin said. Convince him to help us. Captain Han? Tay shook his head. He follows rules. He won't risk his job for us. He might, Juwon said, if he knows what's at stake. She pulled out the data crystal. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about the truth, about where humans really come from. The ship's engines roared louder as they moved away from Earth orbit, heading for the red planet millions of kilometers away. In the darkness of the cargo hold, 3 people who had never planned to be heroes sat close together, holding a small crystal that contained a truth too big for the world to ignore. Okay, Tay said finally. Let's talk to the captain. The Star Runner moved steadily away from Earth. Through the small window in the cargo hold, Tay could see the blue planet growing smaller. The ship hummed around them, its engines working at full power. We need to move, Jin said. The longer we hide, the more suspicious it will look when they find us. If they find us, Tay corrected. They will find us, Jin said firmly. This ship is small. The crew will do a full check once we're on course. Better to face them now on our terms. Tay nodded. You're right. I know a back way to the control room. He led them through narrow maintenance passages that ran between the main corridors. As the ship's engineer, Tay knew every pipe and panel of the Star Runner. They moved quietly, stopping whenever they heard voices. How many crew members? Jin asked. 5, Tay answered. Captain Han, 2 pilots, a cargo master, and me. I'm supposed to be on leave until Mars. They reached a small door near the control room. Tay pressed his ear against it, listening. He could hear Captain Han's voice giving orders. Ready? He asked Jin and Juwon. They nodded, though Juwon looked pale and scared. Jin stood straight, her face calm but alert. She still looked like an enforcer, even without her uniform. Tay opened the door. They stepped into the control room. Captain Han turned, surprised. He was a tall man with gray hair and a serious face. The 2 pilots at their stations looked up in shock. Tay? Captain Han frowned. What are you doing here? And who are these people? Before Tay could answer, Jin stepped forward. Captain Han, my name is Jin. This is Juwon Park, Tai's sister. We need your help. Captain Han's eyes narrowed. You're stowaways on my ship. That's a serious offense, sir, Tay said. Please listen. It's important. A beeping sound came from one of the control panels. The younger pilot checked it and turned to the captain. Sir, incoming message from orbital station Daehan. Priority 1. Captain Han looked at the 3 of them, his face hard. Put it on screen. The large screen on the wall lit up. A stern-faced man in a military uniform appeared. Tay felt Ju-won stiffen beside him. "That's Commander Kang," she whispered. "Head of Station Security." "Captain Han," the commander said. "We have reason to believe you have 3 fugitives on board your vessel. A security enforcer named Jin, a scientist named Ju-won Park, and possibly her brother, Tae Park." Captain Han glanced at them, then back at the screen. "What are the charges?" "Theft of government property, sabotage, and treason," Commander Kang said. "They have stolen classified research materials. You are ordered to secure these individuals and return to Orbital Station Daehan immediately." The control room was silent. Captain Han's face gave nothing away. "I understand, Commander," he said finally. "We will comply." The screen went dark. Captain Han turned to face them. "Treason," he said quietly. "That's a death sentence." Jin stepped forward. "Captain, those charges are false. We're not traitors." "Then explain why you snuck onto my ship," Captain Han said. Ju-won pulled the data crystal from her pocket. "Because of this," she said. "Because of what I found." She handed the crystal to Captain Han. He looked at it, unimpressed. "What is it?" "The truth," Ju-won said. "About human origins. About our real history." Captain Han raised an eyebrow. "You expect me to risk my ship, my crew, and my career for some scientific debate?" "It's more than a debate," Jin said. "They killed Ju-won's entire research team. They were going to kill her too. This isn't about science. It's about control." The captain looked at each of them, thinking. The pilots watched nervously from their stations. "Show me," he said finally. Ju-won took the crystal to a data reader on one of the control panels. The screen filled with complex images, microscope views of cells, DNA patterns, and star maps. "I was studying moss samples from Proxima Centauri b," Ju-won explained. "Simple plants, but I found human DNA markers in them, not exactly like ours, but too similar to be a coincidence." "That's impossible," one of the pilots said. "That's what I thought," Ju-won continued. "So I checked samples from other worlds. Mars, Europa, Titan. I found similar markers in all of them. Different variations, but all connected to human DNA." Captain Han studied the screen. "What does it mean?" "It means humans didn't start on Earth," Jin said. "Or someone put human DNA on other worlds before we started exploring space. Either way," Ju-won added, "our official history is wrong, and someone is willing to kill to keep it that way." The control room was quiet as Captain Han thought. The only sounds were the beeping of instruments and the hum of the engines. "If I help you," he said finally, "I put my crew at risk. I can't do that without their agreement." He turned to the pilots. "You heard everything. This is your choice too." The older pilot, a woman with short gray hair, spoke first. "My grandmother was a historian. She lost her job for questioning the official records of the first Mars colony. I believe them." The younger pilot nodded. "Me too, sir." Captain Han turned back to Jin, Tae, and Ju-won. "What exactly do you want me to do?" "Don't return to the station," Jin said. "Continue to Mars as planned. But don't land at the main colony. There's a research outpost in Valles Marineris. I have contacts there who can help us spread this information." "That's asking a lot," Captain Han said. "We'd be fugitives. You'd be heroes," Ju-won said quietly. "People who helped reveal the truth." Captain Han walked to the window and looked out at the stars. For a long moment, no one spoke. "Send a message to Orbital Station Daehan," he said finally to the older pilot. "Tell them we're having engine trouble and can't return. We need to continue to Mars for repairs." Relief washed over Tae. "Thank you, Captain." "Don't thank me yet," Captain Han said. "They won't believe the engine excuse for long. And when we reach Mars, every security force in the system will be looking for this ship." "We have 3 days until we reach Mars," Jin said. "We can make a better plan by then." The ship's communication system beeped again. The younger pilot checked it and looked up, worried. "Sir, Commander Kang is sending a security ship after us. They'll catch up in about 6 hours." Captain Han's face hardened. "Then we need to be gone before they arrive." He turned to Tae. "You're the engineer. Can you make us go faster?" Tae thought quickly. "The main engines are already at full power. But there's the emergency booster. It's meant for avoiding asteroids, not long travel. Will it work?" "It will burn out after a few hours," Tae said. "And it uses fuel we might need later." "Better to use the fuel now than be caught," Jin said. Captain Han nodded. "Do it." Tae moved to the engineering panel and began typing commands. The ship shuddered as the emergency booster fired up. Booster engaged, Tay announced. Our speed is increasing. The security ship won't catch us now. Good, Captain Han said. Now we need to make sure this information stays safe. He held up the data crystal. If this is as important as you say, we need copies. I can help with that, the younger pilot said. I know some secure communication channels. As they worked, Ju-won came to stand beside Tay at the engineering panel. Do you think we'll make it? She asked quietly. Tay looked at his sister. Her face was tired but determined. He thought about how much she had risked to protect the truth. Yes, he said. We'll make it. And people will know what you found. The Star Runner raced through the darkness of space, carrying its crew and passengers toward Mars, and toward a future that none of them could predict. 3 days passed on the Star Runner. The ship moved quickly through the emptiness between Earth and Mars. The red planet grew larger in the viewing windows each hour. Tay worked in the engine room most of the time. The emergency booster had burned out after 5 hours, just as he had predicted. Now he was trying to fix it before they reached Mars. They might need it again. Jin spent her time with Captain Han making plans. She knew people on Mars who might help them. People who didn't always follow Earth's rules. Ju-won worked with the pilots to send copies of her research to trusted scientists across the solar system. They used old communication channels that security forces rarely checked. It was slow work, but important. How much longer until we reach Mars? Ju-won asked, joining Tay in the engine room. Tay wiped grease from his hands. About 6 hours. How are the data transmissions going? We've sent copies to scientists on Europa, Titan, and the Belt colonies, Ju-won said. Even if they catch us, the truth is out there now. Tay smiled at his sister. She looked better after 3 days of rest and regular meals. Some color had returned to her face. I'm proud of you, he said. What you discovered. It's going to change everything. Ju-won sat down next to him. I'm still trying to understand it all myself. If humans existed on other worlds before Earth, where did we really come from? And what happened to those other human civilizations? Maybe we'll find those answers on Mars, Tay said. The ship's speaker system crackled. Captain Han's voice came through. All crew and passengers to the control room immediately. Tay and Ju-won looked at each other, worried. They hurried through the narrow corridors to the control room. Captain Han, Jin, and the 2 pilots were looking at the main screen. It showed a map of Mars with several blinking lights around the planet. What's wrong? Tay asked. Earth security ships, Captain Han said, pointing to the blinking lights. 6 of them in orbit around Mars. They're waiting for us. Jin studied the map. They've covered all the main landing areas. And they're broadcasting our ship ID to all colonies. Everyone on Mars knows to look for us, so we can't land? Ju-won asked, her voice shaking. Not at any official port, Captain Han said. They would arrest us immediately. The room was quiet. After everything they had done to escape Earth, they were trapped again. There must be another way, Tay said. What about the research outpost you mentioned, Jin? In Valles Marineris? It's too small for a ship this size to land, Jin said. And it's probably being watched too. The older pilot, whose name was Min, spoke up. What about the old mining station in Acidalia Planitia? It was abandoned years ago when the ore ran out. Captain Han looked thoughtful. It would have a landing pad for supply ships. And it's far from any colonies, Min added. No one lives there anymore. Jin checked her wrist device. It's not on any active monitoring lists. They might not be watching it. Can we land there? Ju-won asked. Tay thought about it. The landing pad would be old, maybe damaged. But if we go in slow and careful, we could do it. Captain Han made his decision. Set course for Acidalia Planitia. And shut down all non-essential systems. We need to be as quiet as possible. The younger pilot, Sung, began typing commands. Course, he said. Approaching Mars from the night side to avoid detection. The Star Runner changed direction slightly. Through the window, they could see Mars growing larger. Its red surface was marked with dark spots and lines. Valleys, mountains, and ancient dried-up rivers. What do we do after we land? Ju-won asked. We'll be stranded in an abandoned mining station. I have an idea, Jin said. But it's risky. They all looked at her, waiting. There's an underground transport network on Mars, Jin explained. Built during the early colony days. Most of it isn't used anymore, but it still works. One of the old tunnels runs near Acidalia Planitia. How do you know this? Captain Han asked. I worked Mars security before I was transferred to the station, Jin said. I know all the old escape routes. Just in case. So we land at the mining station, find this tunnel, and then what? Tay asked. We take the transport to Olympus City, Jin said. It's the biggest colony on Mars. Easy to disappear in the crowds. And I have friends there who can help us. Captain Han nodded slowly. It could work. But first we need to land without being seen. The next few hours were tense. Everyone worked quietly, preparing for landing. Tay checked all the ship systems. Juwon and Jin gathered supplies they would need on Mars: food, water, medical kits. The pilots studied old maps of Acidalia Planitia, looking for the best landing spot. As they approached Mars, Captain Han ordered all lights turned off. The ship flew in darkness, using only minimal power. They held their breath as they passed near one of the Earth security ships. It didn't seem to notice them. Beginning descent, Sung announced quietly, entering Mars' atmosphere in 3 minutes. The ship began to shake as it hit the thin Martian air. Red dust swirled around them, making it hard to see. The control room glowed with the orange light coming through the windows. Landing site identified, Min said. Old mining station dead ahead. Through breaks in the dust, they could see a flat area with old buildings. In the center was a circular landing pad, cracked and covered with red dust. It doesn't look very sturdy, Juwon whispered. It will hold, Tay said, hoping he was right. The Star Runner descended slowly. The engines roared as they fought against Mars's gravity. Red dust flew everywhere, hiding them from any watching eyes. With a hard bump, the ship touched down. The landing gear creaked but held. The engines shut off and sudden silence filled the ship. We made it, Captain Han said. Welcome to Mars. They gathered their supplies and put on Mars suits. The planet had air, but it was too thin to breathe. The suits were lighter than spacesuits, designed for the Martian surface. Stay close together, Jin warned as they prepared to leave the ship. Dust storms can come up quickly. If you get separated, you'll never find your way back. Captain Han turned to his pilots. Min Sung, you'll stay with the ship. Keep it ready in case we need to leave quickly. The pilots nodded. They had already decided to stay with their captain no matter what happened. Tay, Juwon, Jin, and Captain Han put on their helmets and checked their oxygen levels. Then they opened the ship's door. Cold, thin air rushed in. Through their helmet visors, they saw the red landscape of Mars stretching out around them. The abandoned mining station looked eerie in the dim light of the distant sun. Metal buildings half buried in dust, broken equipment scattered around. No signs of life. The tunnel entrance should be in the main building, Jin said, her voice coming through their helmet radios. Let's go. They walked down the ship's ramp onto the Martian surface. Their boots left clear footprints in the dust that had been undisturbed for years. The main building was larger than the others, with a faded sign reading Acidalia Mining Corporation. The door was locked, but Captain Han forced it open. Inside was dark and dusty. Old computers and equipment sat silent on tables and desks. Jin led them to the back of the building, to what looked like a storage closet. She pushed aside empty containers to reveal a metal hatch in the floor. The tunnel entrance, she said. Help me open it. Together they pulled on the heavy hatch. With a groan of rusty metal, it opened. Below was a dark shaft with a ladder leading down. I'll go first, Jin said. She started down the ladder, her helmet light shining into the darkness. One by one, they followed her down. The tunnel at the bottom was wide enough for a small transport vehicle. Old lights still worked, giving off a weak glow. The transport station should be half a kilometer this way, Jin said, pointing down the tunnel. They walked in silence, their footsteps echoing. The tunnel was cold but intact. After about 10 minutes, they reached a small platform with an old transport car sitting on tracks. Will it still work? Juwon asked, looking at the dusty vehicle. Jin checked the control panel. Lights flickered on. It has power. These systems were built to last. They climbed into the transport car. Jin pressed buttons on the control panel, and with a jerk, the car began to move along the tracks. Next stop, Olympus City, Jin said. About 6 hours from here. As the transport car picked up speed, carrying them through the underground tunnels of Mars, Tay looked at his sister. She was holding the data crystal in her hand, watching the lights reflect off its surface. We made it this far, he said. We'll make it the rest of the way. Juwon smiled at him. Yes, and when we do, everyone will know the truth. The transport car raced through the darkness, taking them toward a new future, not just for them, but for all of humanity.